The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Yeah, Earnestly Speaking podcast. Let's get it. I'm a giant in New York, in Miami carry heat. So much more in store, my product can flood the street. Opinion Nation Godfather, CEO. Puff in the late 90s, gon' see me blow. Oh. Got my hustle on, no imitation of that. Army of untouchables, Opinion Nation staff. Never an off season, homie, check the numbers. Heart throb in my own right, supplying southern comfort. Earnestly speaking, my ego is well fed. Earnestly speaking, you're too feeble and no threat. See, I'm like a hurricane, you're a mild breeze. Earnestly speaking, leaving Eli a dynasty. Shake!
Earnestly Podcast coming to you September 30th, 2025. Feeling good today on a Tuesday here on the podcast. I just got back from getting a massage. You guys know my day job. I do poker, so my back is all fucked up. Shoulders all fucked up. My neck. I have osteoarthritis, so I need to get myself taken care of. And I think I might have found the best masseuse at my place I go to. She's fantastic. She did a great job today on my working on my, especially on my shoulders, and especially on my this area in my shoulders, like towards under my arm, where it like has a big ass knot. That, by the way, I got that knot on both ends after my trip to New York last month. For some reason, I don't know how I got that. But what it is, I went to the massage today, and that's all gone. Like all the pain and sores I had before, all gone. She did deep tissue. She did a fantastic job. So shout out to Tony for a job well done on me. And I already told the staff she's the best you have here, and I will be going there to see her more often to work on me as I need to stay limber and whatnot. So how you guys doing anyway? It is the Tuesday show here on the podcast. A lot to get to today on this show. Of course, we'll talk about the week 4 in the NFL wrapped up last night on Monday Night Football. Has Russell Wilson played himself out of the Hall of Fame? That's in a second. It is FSU week, and no one gives a fuck. Okay. The Ticketmaster CEO made a really strange and controversial comment. I want to break that down. And then Bad Bunny is now officially named the halftime performer for the Super Bowl that will be in February, Super Bowl 60, I believe it is, here this year. But before we get to all that stuff on the line, of course, subscribe to the podcast, all podcast catchers on the audio side, especially too. But on the video side, the YouTube page at Earnestly Pod on YouTube, Earnestly Podcast. We have our own YouTube page. In addition to the podcast, we have a lot of other cool like series we do as well too. Also, False Guy Anywhere, New Music Lounge, that's Retrospective, Unfiltered. We started doing a new idea. EJ Loves the Internet, which I'm going to be putting out every Monday. It looks like at least for the foreseeable future. Lots of good. It's not just because I'm doing the content. It's because I enjoy doing the content. I love giving you guys content, and this is therapy to me also too. I enjoy this. So subscribe. You won't be disappointed. YouTube page. I said YouTube page, Earnestly Pod. The TikTok as well too. TikTok at Earnestly Pod, as well as Instagram. But let's get to the first thing I want to get to here. See, title of today's show. You know, I do love sports, but at least lately anyway, it doesn't love me. It doesn't love me. I had a very shitty sports weekend. And mind you, this is including the fact that my New York Giants won the first game of the year. Jackson Dart, his first start, very solid. We got that in a second. But the two teams that I was really focused on this weekend were my college football team, Florida State Seminoles, and then my baseball team, New York Mets. Seminoles, of course, had a big game against Virginia that they lost. Okay, a game that I was worried about. That said, it'd be a trap game because, of course, the big game come this week is UM and Florida State, which is my favorite rivalry all sports. You know, obviously, that game is a little bit tempered down now because of the loss to Virginia. But had FSU did their job on Friday, the hype for FSU UM would be through the roof. It'd be the biggest UM FSU game we've seen probably about 20 years. I remember a game as with the magnitude it has now, given where they're at in the rankings. FSU wins that game in Virginia, they're probably in the top 5. Given how things played out this weekend in rest of college football, they'll be in the top 5. So you have 2 against 5 or 2 against 4. at least this year, this week coming up. But instead, FSU looks ahead. FSU like garbage. They didn't do their job, and I had a feeling this game scared me because it's a game on a Friday night, on the road in a tough environment. It's a conference opponent. Yeah, not a good look. So that set up my weekend. On top of that, you guys already know the New York Mets have had a very shitty 4 months after having a great start to the year. They already blew the National League East lead. Philadelphia won the NL East a long time ago. Okay, but they were at least still in the wild card and control the wild card for the most part. But in the last couple of weeks, they've been duking it out with Cincinnati, with Arizona. The Giants for a while too, also. I think even St. Louis was involved in that race too. The Mets entered the weekend with a 1-game lead in the wild card. All they had to do was win 2 out of 3, and they win the series, and then play us the wild card. Now, mind you, I already told you guys that even if they get in the playoffs, I am not confident in this Mets team to do anything because their pitching is shit. My wife, if you listen to the Unfiltered podcast I did yesterday, I recorded it. I did a whole thing on the Mets. And they can't get the job done. And even when they got the help, even when Cincinnati lost on Sunday, had the Mets won on Sunday, they get into the playoffs. They can get the job done. Especially, it was a really shitty sports weekend for me. It really was really shitty. And like I said, I left all my Mets talk on that unfiltered episode, which I recorded yesterday again to check it out. But it's between Florida State, between the New York Mets, they have been the bane of my existence this weekend, and they really reminded me why I love sports, which love me. And again, I'm not going to say the sports fans who've never experienced Super Bowl, never experienced NBA Finals, never experienced the Stanley Cup. I've at least experienced all of it. Now, the last Mets World Series, I was 6 years old. I wasn't old enough to appreciate it, but I do remember living in New York and hearing the big deal about the Mets at that time. But I have experienced, I was live for all 4 New York Giants Super Bowls, but I only kept the 3 that I really was when I was watching football: 1990, 2007, 2011. Okay, Miami Heat. I've been spoiled there. The LeBron years, especially too with Dwayne Wade, 2006, 2012, 2013. So I get all that. With hockey, I was old enough. I was watching hockey at the time when the Rangers won the last Stanley Cup in 1994. Okay, but it has been a rough couple of years for me. The Heat. Look at it right now. My current sports palette right now. The Giants stink. The Mets obviously stink this year and melting down. The Heat are going to be pretty mid this year for the most part, although the East is pretty bad, so we'll see how it plays out. But I don't think the Heat do really anything significant this year. I'm missing here. So it's the Mets, Giants, Heat, Rangers. I mean, they make the playoffs again. They missed the playoffs last year. Who knows what they'll do this year? Florida State, the hype and all this stuff, and then they lose to now. Obviously, if they beat Miami this week, they can change some things. We'll see what happens there. Sports has sucked for me really recently, and we're talking about for years where the Mets were in the NLCS last year, but then the Seminoles stuck for a couple of years, and the Heat have been kind of mid the last couple of years, and a lot there. But this is the ebb and flow being a sports fan, and luckily for me, I don't. If this was 10, 15 years ago, I'd be way more depressed. Okay, obviously I'm down, but I don't let it get to me. Once, I'll be, but at that point, I'll be, something like that. I got sidetracked by text here. Anyway, it's been a rough couple of years, but again, I'm older, I'm mature, I'm wiser. If my team loses the game or loses something here, I one day I just ponder and and then I'm over it. That's maturity, I guess. Because there are things in the world that are more important than sports. Let's be real about that. Okay. The family's more important than sports. You know what I'm saying? So, but, anyway, that is my shitty sports weekend in review. Like I said, if you want to hear my rant on the New York Mets, I cut a promo on the Mets yesterday on the Unfiltered episode, which I put out yesterday. Feel free to check it out, man. Feel free. Anyway, week 4 takeaways. All right, week 4. I have some 5 takeaways that stood out for me this past week. See, now we're at a point now. See, this is what I always say, that we need at least a 4-game sample before we can start really taking in what could be real. Like, week 1 overreaction is a real thing. Hell, week 2 overreaction is a real thing. And it's a lot of stories that came out in the first couple weeks. It's like, oh, well, this could be real. Oh, it's a shocking loss here, a shocking win here. And then things regress to the mean and vice versa. But 4 weeks in, like I said, still not big enough. But 4 weeks is at least enough to make some calculated predictions, make some calculated assessments and whatnot. So my takeaway number one, first takeaway for me. You saw Neighbors for the Giants get injured, out for the season. Malik Neighbors torn ACL out for the year. Gotta be honest with you, as a Giant fan. Obviously I hate seeing that. This injury actually though may actually save Brian Daboll's job. And here's why. He's definitely on the hot seat this year. I think him and McDaniel probably 1 and 2. But the priority right now is making sure Jackson Dart develops. If there's one thing that Brian Daboll was brought here to New York for, was to develop quarterbacks. Obviously, he can do it with Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is thriving elsewhere in Indianapolis. Okay, but and Dart had a solid game on Sunday. If the development goes well, I don't see any reason why they will fire him at this point now. So the Neighbors injury, if Dart could develop without their best receiver still, that may save his job. I don't think the front office is looking at wins and losses as a be-all, end-all, although they let some wins. And look, when you beat the Chargers, a team that many believe are a Super Bowl contender, including myself, that goes a long way. So if they can show to be competitive and see growth from Dart, even without his best receiver, that can go a long way into shaping, the conversation about him staying another year. Okay, we'll see. I don't know. I'm not a fan of changing coaches. Let's see if the locker room buys back into him again. Because there's been some reports that he was starting to lose the locker room a little bit. But let's see. Let's see what happens here. Made the move from Russ to him to Dart, and so far so good. All right, second takeaway. So maybe Green Bay isn't second best team in the NFC after all. So remember the last 2 weeks. If you talk about sample sizes, but at the same time, Green Bay's 2 wins out the chute were impressive. You beat Detroit. You beat Washington, who was in the NFC title game this year. 2 of the best teams in the conference. Okay, granted at home, but you beat those teams convincingly. So Green Bay through those 2 weeks had the right to say, well, if Philadelphia's number 1, but then we're number 2. But then the last 2 weeks, you lose to Cleveland, and then you tie with Dallas. And by the way, Dallas, who were playing without CeeDee Lamb. Okay. That's a bad look. To me, that's a loss. I look at this game on the Packers. I look at the Packers Cowboys game from Sunday night, and to me, it was a tie. Yes, but to me, Cowboys won, Packers lost because of the narrative. Packers were a 6-point favorite in that game on the road. You know what I'm saying? So the fact that you couldn't beat Dallas, who was a walking wounded, was a problem. So maybe Green Bay isn't second best team in the conference after all. Now, look, again, they have those key wins against Detroit, against Washington. But have you seen Detroit since then? Detroit is like the second best team in the conference by far. So the puzzle's still being put together. This is why it's important not to overreact, and including myself. Look, I'm guilty of that too also. I bought in early. And look, I'm not saying Green Bay's not a contender. I think it's still a contender. They've had a rough 2 weeks because they can turn this around next couple weeks, and by the end of October, we're having this conversation again. But this is why we love the NFL, because the puzzle is still being put together. So let the story play out. And it's what this is what in the business what we do here, in podcasting and radio and TV and all that. This is what we love about this. And everyone wants to be right. It's okay if you're wrong. It's okay. Everybody's so obsessed with being right all the time. It's okay to be wrong sometimes also too and get it wrong. Okay? No big deal. All right. Third takeaway. I'm concerned about the Baltimore Ravens, but I'm not concerned about the Baltimore Ravens. So they're 1-3. And listen, hear me out here. They're not playing good football. I think, forget the fact they lost to the Chiefs, because that was on the table anyway. The way they lost to the Chiefs was concerning. They lost. That was the worst loss in a Lamar Jackson started game in almost 5 years. I saw the stat that he hasn't lost a game by double digits or by more than one possession since, I think, 2021. October 2021, some date. I don't know. And now they're back on injuries on the defensive line as well, too. Are the Ravens right now, even at 1-3, a playoff team? Yes. I told you guys last week on the show that even though, on the Friday show especially too, that even the loser of this game is still not in trouble because the AFC is not that good. The AFC right now, 3-4 weeks, not that good. And maybe it'll change going forward. But who are you trusting? I know the Steelers are 3-1, and they have a lot of upside, but do you see them turning things around? They could probably, but I don't see the Steelers running away the division. Okay. Denver, I guess with Denver for me, I've been hard on Denver, but maybe they're starting to show some things here. But outside of those teams, who are you really scared of in the wild card situation that Baltimore couldn't make up some ground and get into the wild card? Again, I do believe we will have an 8 or 9 win team make the playoffs. I think Baltimore will find a way to win 10 plus games this year, no matter what, even at 1-3, because you got Lamar Jackson and you got Derrick Henry. Okay, that alone gets you to 8, 9, and 10 wins right there. All right. I'm concerned. My concern with the Ravens is more internal because, again, what do we say coming to the year? This is a Super Bowl or bust season for the Ravens. If they don't at least get to the Super Bowl, John Harbaugh is probably going to be gone. Okay? They have to get to the Super Bowl. So even if they go 14-3, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because if they lose in the playoffs, it's still a failure. So if I'm the Ravens and I get the playoffs at say 10-7, but then get red hot in January and go to Super Bowl, hell, win it, that's more important. That's the play. And I think that's still more likely to happen right now than not. Okay, I think they will still find a way to get in the playoffs. But are there legitimate concerns? Absolutely, internal. But are they fixable? Yes, they're fixable. And I think they will fix at some point, even at 1-3. All right, fourth thing. Despite the loss to the Rams on Sunday, I actually still feel good about this Colts team long term. I told you guys in week 1, and I'm still seeing it 4 weeks in, that there are things there with the Colts that are sustainable for success. Now, I'm not going to go so far as to say they're a super contender. And I told you guys, had they won this game, that would have shaped more of a conversation because you beat a really good team on the road, a team that I consider a contender as well too. But you lost. But granted, they look good, and granted, they beat themselves also too in that game. I don't think Daniel Jones played that bad either. I think Daniel Jones, he a little regression there compared to the first 3 weeks of the year, but he didn't play that bad. I thought they were in that game. They were in that game. So I saw things during that game that's like, okay, you lost to the Rams on the road. Granted, it was a game that nip and tuck, but you weren't embarrassed. You were in the game. The game you could have won. You probably should have won. I feel good about this Colts team. Now, look, I'm not going to go so far as to call them a Super Bowl contender just yet. They're not. They're not there yet. But there are some positive things to take away from that game. I think 4 weeks in, what is clear is that even though I won't call them a Super Bowl contender, what is clear is that they are the best team in that division. Because even Houston winning against Tennessee was it 26-0? Wasn't that impressive? That was a close game until the third quarter, fourth quarter. Come on, I wasn't that impressed with Houston. And I think there's real issues there in Houston as well too. All right, final thing for me. Caleb Williams, Bears quarterback. It looks like he's finally settling down. It looks like he's finally getting it. Look, he's not, obviously Jaden Daniels had a phenomenal rookie year. Bo Nix had a really, really good rookie year. So obviously the benchmark for what Caleb Williams should be is not there yet. He has to measure up to what he was supposed to be, which is number 1 pick in the draft, and people were calling him a generational quarterback. He's not there yet. But what we are seeing is a guy now is finally becoming a good quarterback, a capable quarterback, and has the upside to grow. Okay. And this year in general, he's looked like a quarterback that actually knows what he's doing now. The Bears have their guy. Okay. And the more he focuses and leans into that and settles down, let the game come to him instead of trying to make everything. And look, there's some chaotic plays also too. He's very chaotic. He's very Mahomes in a sense, but the chaos now I see, in the pocket is not as chaotic as it was last year. Okay. There's some production to that. Okay. There's some organization to that. I feel like with the eye test, Caleb Williams looked like he's finally settled down. And it's a good thing for Bears fans to look forward to. The Bears now are 2-2? They're 2-2 now after a slow start. NFC North might be the best division in football. We'll see. I don't know. I mean, people thought the Bears were done. They're clearly not done yet. So that's where I'm at with these takeaways. But again, we're 4 weeks in. Nice sample. A long way to go. Long way to go. Speaking of football and quarterbacks and the Giants and all that, Russell Wilson obviously got benched. He did play two snaps on Sunday against the Chargers because Dart had to be taken out of the game for not for injury, but to check up, whatever you call it. The debate by Russell Wilson, and you guys know I'm a huge Russ guy. I've been an advocate for Russell Wilson on this show for well over a decade. So to me, the guy is a class personified. Although there've been some things in the last couple of years come out, a little bit of some of the diva tendencies that people have reported on in Denver and whatnot, and last year's in Seattle. But there's a lot of conversation about Russ now since the benching as to whether or not he has played himself out of Hall of Fame consideration. Now, here's where I stand on that. First 9 years in the league, he was no doubt Hall of Famer. And some may even say first ballot. I was still kind of on the fence, but it was clear he was a Hall of Fame quarterback for me. The last 5 is the problem. The last 5 has left little to be desired for me, and that's the thing. Was the last 5 bad enough to where, forget the fact that you got to think about it now. It's clear now he's not a first ballot guy. That's off the table. Now, does he even be considered? Is he even on a ballot? Do people put him on a ballot going forward? Has the last 5 years been so bad that we don't even consider it anymore? Because he's had 9 really, really good, great years versus the 5 bad years. The thing I look about is this. I think I do love Russ, but I think it's obvious now that he's played himself out of that conversation. Okay? Here's something no one's considering also too, and this is something I'm going to tell you that I'm going to give a comparison to. The Super Bowl loss to Seattle hurts even more. Not because he didn't get better as a quarterback, because I would argue Russ Wilson, as the Legion of Boom started to go down, Russ did play better football as a quarterback. So there's an argument about Russ was a better quarterback in the latter years of the odds, 2018, 2017, 18, 19. Kyle Nash comes on the show all the time, student the game, always says that Russell Wilson should have been an MVP in 2017. Okay? That's when he had his turnaround on Russ. Had he won that Super Bowl against New England, that'd be back-to-back years. He also beat that team. I think it would still be hard to keep out the conversation. But because he has only one Super Bowl, and I hate the fact that Super Bowls weigh his argument, because it really shouldn't, but it does to some degree when you're looking at the pros and cons. He would have the back-to-back Super Bowls, 2 Super Bowls under his belt. The 2 Super Bowls is actually, let's say, is Eli Manning. Because I can argue Eli Manning has a very similar career track to Russell Wilson. Eli Manning's last 5 years, even longer, last 6, 7 years, were not that good. In fact, they're pretty bad. Okay? And yet, Eli Manning is on a ballot. Okay? Why is Eli Manning on a ballot, though? Number 1, he's a Manning. Number 2, he plays in New York. Number 3, he won 2 Super Bowls. Number 4, he won 2 Super Bowls playing that guy and that team, the Patriots and Tom Brady. Okay? Had Russ gotten that second Super Bowl, I think it would still be very hard to look away. Okay? Plus, Eli also has 2 Super Bowl MVPs. Russ didn't win MVP in the Super Bowl that year. He might have won it in 2014, actually, had he won it. Had Seattle repeated. That hurts him. And that's why I think he is unfortunately play out of the conversation. And now the bigger issue now is, does he even get a starting opportunity again? I say he'll still get an opportunity to play football, and I think he'll get on the roster going forward. But will he get another opportunity to start football games? That's the big question. But right now, if I had to bet on Russell Wilson making the Pro Football Hall of Fame, I'm gonna say no. And I question if he'd be on the ballot at this point, because this dip was bad. That second Super Bowl, this is when the 2014 Super Bowl really hurts, because it would help weight his argument. But it's one Super Bowl, and there you go. All right, some disturbing stuff. Ticketmaster CEO says concerts are still underpriced. Oh boy! And I'm a big live music guy, so hearing this is pretty shocking. The comment that concerts are underpriced was made by Mike Rapino, the CEO of Live Nation Entertainment, which is the parent company of Ticketmaster. During the conference, Rapino was quoted as saying things like, quote, music is unappreciated. I agree with that, actually. The only thing I will say, though, is that now always saying music of what era, because I would argue the music today, not so much, I'm not saying all music, not because of the generalization, but much of music that's on radio, for example, is pretty shitty. Let's be real about that. I might think I'm old because I'm a musician, but a lot of the music today is pretty shitty and derivative. Okay? He compared concert prices to high-end sports. Wait, let me say it again. He compared concert prices to high-end sports tickets, saying, in sports, I joke it's like a badge of honor to spend $7, $70,000 for a Knicks courtside seat. They beat me up if we charge $800 for Beyonce. He also stated that the concerts is underpriced and has been for a long time. He added that we have a lot of runway left, suggesting room for further price increases. While the quote came from the CEO of the parent company Live Nation, the news was widely reported with the headlines tying the comment to the Ticketmaster boss due to the company's notoriety into ticketing space. Here's my problem. Okay. I get what he's saying, actually, because people don't understand what the cost of shows. You know, you got to pay, you obviously pay the performer, but you're paying, you know, management, you're paying the fees to use the stadium and the venue, you're just paying truck drivers and, you know, all the things that attach to that. So a lot of people, when they go to a concert, they're not considering the things that are in that. The issue with this is that Ticketmaster overcharges. Their fees are through the fucking roof. Where are those fees going? That's my question. If the fees are going to cover some of the costs when it comes to the artists and their entourage, in terms of like what they need to make the show go on, okay, fine. I have you. But I got a feeling that the fees are not doing that. I got the feeling that these extra fees for concerts are just to make profit. And that's bullshit. So while I admire the transparency of what he's saying here, at the same time, you gotta read a fucking room, bro. Everyone tells you this. Everyone complains about ticket prices. Okay? But here's the thing, though. It goes back to what I've been saying for many times over when it comes to WWE, for example, and what they're doing with their brand, and you know, and overcharging for WrestleMania and moving this show and this show here and this and all the decisions they've made that have alienated fans. The NFL, same thing too. Also, as a consumer, you can push back on this. Do you know how you push back on this? You stop giving them money. You stop giving them money. Okay. If you keep putting money in their pockets, they are going to be justified in doing what the hell they want, okay? Because you're still paying for the shit, okay? The minute you stop doing that, then maybe we go back to hopefully prices being a little bit lower. But unfortunately, we keep putting money in their pockets. That's the problem, okay? So I can't blame Ticketmaster because people are still paying for tickets for concerts, okay? There's a lot of acts still touring, and they're still doing pretty well. Okay, now there are some artists I'm willing to pay extra money for because I love them, like Metallica, or like when they announce this concert at the Sphere in Vegas next year. Okay, I will pay top dollar, but that's because they're my favorite band. But they're not. There aren't really many artists or bands that I will go out of my way to pay that kind of money for. Okay, System of a Down was an exception to the rule for me when I went to New York because I've never seen before and they're not touring. So it required me to spend money on travel costs and hotel costs and being in New York for a couple of days, and then of course paying for the ticket prices for the concerts. Was it worth it for me personally? Absolutely, it was a great experience. But I'm not paying for every fucking show that comes to my area to do that. That's not happening. Okay, so on one hand, I'm pissed at him for the guy saying this, but he's also stating something that's kind of factual. But again, this is why I love capitalism. Okay, as a consumer, if you have a problem with this, then don't give them money. Don't make the sacrifice. Don't go to concerts. You're not entitled to go to concerts. Okay, you're also not entitled to have low prices. But the only way they'll cut prices is if people stop going to shows. Simple as that. Simple as that. All right, one thing we got to hear. Speaking of performers and concerts, Bad Bunny is officially named the Super Bowl 60 halftime performer, which will take place February 8th, 2026 on a Sunday at Levi Stadium in Santa Clara, California. He previously made a guest appearance during the Super Bowl 54 halftime show in 2020, performing alongside Shakira. This upcoming performance will mark the first time as the main headliner of the event. 2-part answer for me here. Good selection for Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny is actually, a lot of people don't know, probably American don't realize this, but Bad Bunny is huge. I'm not a huge fan of Bad Bunny personally, but his music. I'm actually a bigger fan of Bad Bunny, the wrestler. When he was in WWE a couple years ago, that angle he did with Damian Priest and whatnot, he was fantastic. Fantastic. Okay. You got to watch that match. It's from the 2023 Backlash match against Damian Priest. The entrance, the whole match was incredible. Not a fan of his music, but also recognizing that Bad Bunny is one of the biggest artists on the planet right now. I have a lot of friends who live in Europe and abroad, and they love Bad Bunny. My best friend's wife, she's excited about the show. People are excited about the show. So I get it. My thing is this, for me personally. I want Metallica to play. And not because I'm a Metallica diehard, but it made sense. Number one, where the game, I'll say it again, Metallica made sense for this show for one reason. 2 reasons there. Number one, what are the Super Bowls being played at in San Francisco? Okay, which is Metallica's home base, and it would fall on their 45-year anniversary of the band. Okay, but I also know, and I'm reading this now, and it makes more sense here, that bands don't play this show because most bands require. Okay, so let me rephrase real quick. I guess to tear down, and to create the show, most artists, I think all artists, have to play playback, because to do a live show with a band, it requires more time to set up and tear down. And I don't think Metallica's willing to do that. Honestly, I don't think they're willing to do that. But I want a live band to play. The last live band I saw play there, honestly, was, I think, The Who, right? Or Tom Petty, maybe? In 2008. I don't have a problem with what we've seen in the last couple of years. You know, we've had some good shows. The Weeknd was really good. Bruno Mars is fantastic. Beyonce is always awesome. We had Dr. Dre and was the foursome with Dr. Dre, Mary J. Blige, and Snoop Dogg and whatnot, and Eminem I think was still also there. Okay, we had some really good shows. Okay, Usher was amazing last year. Okay, I personally am just tired of seeing the same type of acts all the time. I'm tired of seeing pop acts, hip hop acts over and over again. I need some diversity. I need live band. Now, having said that, I think that will require, more time to set up and tear down. And I don't think they will do that. Okay. Green Day would be another option. But honestly, Green Day comes with a risk, because Green Day is a very liberal band. Okay. They're very, very, very outwardly liberal. In fact, their lead singer, Billy Joe Armstrong, hates Donald Trump. And there's no doubt that he will use the opportunity to speak out against Donald Trump. Okay. He's done it already on his shows as is. Okay, so Green Day would have been more risk. Metallica less of a risk, but again, I think the logistics of doing a live band there. And look, I'm not. I mean, if that's true or not, but if that was true, there's no way Metallica, for a fact, isn't even gonna sign up for that playing playback. Get the fuck out of here. James Hetfield will just walk away, laughing, not happening. So there is, I'm okay with Bad Bunny being a super high performer. I just wish I had more diversity. I think he'll do a good job also too. So anyway, that was it for me here on the podcast, dated September 30th, 2025. I am on X at EJ Christian 7. Of course, check out all the podcasts on the feed, on the audio side. Subscribe on any podcast catcher. And of course, the videos at Earnestly Pod on YouTube, the clips of the show on TikTok and Instagram at Earnestly Pod. Until the next episode, look out for the rest of the week. We have a lot of recordings coming up, a lot of scheduled recordings coming up this week. So look out for that. Talk to you guys soon. Love you guys. Take care and enjoy the rest of your Tuesday.